Have you ever wondered what it would be like to have certain characters in the Bible living in this day and age? Yes, you heard me. I mean, like living amongst us in 2025. What if we could speak to them and get to hear their perspective on life beyond their failures, their flaws, their feelings, their struggles, and even their victories?
We've been expecting you.
Expectations are a complicated phenomenon of our existence, my darling. I mean, isn't that why men, in the height of their unbridled emotions, often confuse their needs and their wants, igniting the forbidden fires of their desires, compelling saints to become sinners, and whilst we wrestle between right or wrong, good or bad, God elegantly sits on his throne playing God. This interview is gonna be fun. It's finally time for me to tell my story my way.
Thank you.
What could they tell us about what we know or what we think we know about them? We've read about them in the verses. Maybe it's time we get to hear their voices. And so, guess what? I decided to go after those I call the real baddies of the Bible. First things first, and so that I don't get all the facts all twisted, can you please introduce yourself? Or maybe I should ask, who are you?
Okay, aside from being the most castigated woman in the Bible, there are several ways you can define me. In fact, there are several ways you can describe me. A social media influencer, a dancer, and a twerker, an aphrodisiac mata manufacturer, the host of the podcast Girls Round the World, the author of the bestseller How to Kill a Man.
Author of the bestseller How to Kill a Man. What? You might have forgotten one little detail.
Okay. And what could that be?
$5 million followers on Instagram, 6 million followers on X, 7 million followers on TikTok, 4 million on OnlyFans, with a monthly subscription of $5.99. Your bio boldly reads, Delilah, the seductress.
Seductress has been overused. Shallow-minded people haven't stopped blaming me. Preachers still make sermons about me. TikTok says the clock is as if I'm to be blamed because a famous deacon made a choice. And yet, my name is not even Ada. Men make choices every day. Samson made a choice.
A choice?
Yes, a choice. What we see as temptations are simply a presentation of choices. Good or bad, right or wrong, no matter how enticing or alluring it may seem to be, every man still reserves that sacred right to make a choice.
Are you, by any chance, suggesting that you are not to blame in all of this? A man anointed by God, chosen by God, lost his ministry, ruined his calling and his legacy. That was one of the greatest men that ever lived.
Okay. And yet, weakness has its own way of hiding in the very midst of greatness. Samson was weak.
Beg your pardon, Delilah. That man pulled the gate of a city and put it on his shoulders. He killed the lion with the jawbone of an ass, tied the tails of 300 foxes together. And yet, you call him weak.
Greatness isn't defined by the weight of a man's giftedness. It is defined by the strength of his character. How great is the man who controls a string of companies, commands an enviable authority, and yet trembles at the sight of the rambling buttocks of a woman, or a man who sits on the upper echelons of political power, smiling whilst his bowed head is being slapped, all because she twerks and calls him baby.
Listen, I might agree that you have a point there, but it won't change the fact that you, Delilah, single-handedly masterminded Samson's downfall by your deceit and your treachery.
Okay, so what does that make me? Huh? Probably the most demonized woman across all those 66 books and 1,189 chapters of the Bible, right? But guess what? If you look closely today, you know that I'm not so guilty after all. We are all playing that game, just different rules.
What game exactly?
Oh, what can I say? That old game of the lust of the flesh driven by our selfish ambitions and packaged in the glitters of glamour. Nobody really cares how you make the money these days. Just sway the hips and secure the bag. Birkins or Bentleys, like they say, Oluwa is involved. You know, Sidabot was really honest on the Honest podcast. Jaruma says she's busily building her empire. So far was a Lambo and a Lambo. Blessing is now a CEO because she earned a BSc. Sorry, I mean a BBL. But between Our Lady Ehi and Caroline, there's so much we can say, even though we love the gossip. I mean, some of us are simply just lovers. And when you ask a gungo, what will he say? It's massive, baby. So you know what? Why don't we all just, shake our bats and fake our lives, pretending to be influencers, just like Amarachi. And when we realize this is all a mirage, we can just change our identities and shave off our beards and win the best dressed female at a movie premiere. And don't you dare tell me it's risky, because my brother Bob doesn't think so. No, I don't blame him though, because James Brown is much more of a clown than a rival. One diss song and a flimsy fight between two females born on a Friday doesn't change anything on Twitter. But one thing that is for sure, Hajia is coming back. So you all can just continue playing queens while it lasts, because her return is for real. Period.
Struggling to grasp all you're saying. I'm really struggling to grasp what you're saying, but why don't we get back to the subject, Samson? And I have just one question. Probably the same question that every man on this planet has. How is it that Samson, even after 3 times of the Philistines coming upon him, could not figure it out that you were setting him up?
Because men are often blinded from the truth by their own emotions, desires, and lust. The truth can stare a man in his face, and yet his eyes are dimmed by the blindfold of his own passions.
Delilah, you have no regrets.
Regrets? The thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. So why then would the thief have any regrets for doing exactly what he's supposed to do? The method hasn't changed. It's always been the same. It was the same thing in the Garden of Eden. Same spirit, same serpent, same lies, same deceit. You get a man's attention. Present him with a temptation. Tease his imagination. And wait to see what becomes of his consecration. Are we done already? I thought you wanted to know how I felt after I shaved off his locks and the great Samson became an ordinary man.
And how did you feel?
Accomplished.
Accomplished?
Yeah, but it wasn't really about taking away his strength. It was about destiny. Yeah. Okay. So, the real fight for the souls of men is about destiny. Every time a man makes a wrong choice and willingly disobeys God, he alters the trajectory of his prophetic destiny and gives the enemy the power of manipulation. There are lots of Samsons out there, and by now you know there are lots more of Delilahs. Right?
It looks as if you've forgotten about chapter 16, verse number 22.
What does that say? Can you remind me?
Judges, chapter number 16, verse number 22. His hair began to grow again. For every Samson out there who stumbled by Delilah, there is hope. There is Jesus. There is grace. And there is mercy. And that mercy is new every morning. So no matter